I've been a well-being ambassador for the Honors College in previous years, and I am one of your wellness class educators. My email is abby.horton@ua.edu, and if you have any questions or feedback or want to just reach out to connect, please feel free to send an email my way. So today we're talking about 5 practices to thrive, and it's really centered on our wellness basics. So I talk about wellness basics in a lot of the classes that I teach, but I have added some new information for you today in case you are someone who has taken several of our classes before or in previous years. There's new content today for you. So we're going to talk about the importance of health and wellness, the 5 wellness basics that I like for us to focus on initially when we're getting started on a wellness journey. And then we're going to talk about specific strategies to actually implement those wellness basics because I always tell my coaching clients, my students, my patients, I have to tell myself that knowledge does not equal habit change. Just because we know what to do does not mean we actually do the thing. And so really, a lot of the time, it's not that we're learning new information. We might get 1 or 2, what I call golden nuggets, a class or two, but we aren't going to learn, dramatically, maybe life-changing information once we already are kind of in this habit of thinking about wellness. But it's really more reminders and strategies that can be the life-changing part. It's not necessarily that we're going to tell you something different besides, hydrate and eat your fruits and vegetables. But it's really the strategies and the approach that we take that I think makes the class really impactful. So I always tell people when we're talking about stress and coping or wellness or habit change to focus on what you can control. So it's not that we're going to try to eliminate all of the negative things, the negative thoughts, the negative feelings. It's really not possible, but our goal is to change our response to them. And sometimes that is really hard. I will tell you, there are some seasons of life where it feels like everything is happening at one time. I am in that season of life of having kidney stones after kidney stones and hot water heaters suddenly not working and the air conditioning goes out and you arrive at the airport back from home and you have a flat tire. Those are just a few of the things that I've experienced in the last 3 to 4 weeks. And I could list many more, honestly. But what I'm telling you this is to tell you that life happens to all of us, and sometimes we're very surprised about how much life other people are actually experiencing. I met someone new yesterday for the first time and would not have guessed some of the challenges that they're experiencing. But in a group setting, teaching some students yesterday, welcoming them to campus, we were asked to give some examples. And it's just a great reminder that we're all going through some hard things. There's a lot that we can't control in life. And so taking good care of ourselves is really where I always refocus my attention because that's what feels like it's the most helpful to me when everything else seems to not be working right. So don't worry about what you can't control. There are so many things that we can't control, but focus on things like your attitude, your effort, where you focus your time and your attention, how you behave, how you eat, what you consume, who you follow, sometimes more importantly, who you unfollow, how you speak to yourself, how you react and respond, the boundaries that you set. Those are all going to be things that make you feel a little bit more empowered. And when we feel more empowered, we feel safer, we feel more in control, and we start to take more positive action. So, this last Venn diagram, which y'all know I'm a fan if you've been around for a while of Venn diagrams, the things that matter and the things that you can control, where those overlap, that's where we need to focus our time, our attention, our effort, our energy. Because all of those things are very finite. We only have so much time in the day, we only have so much energy. And so, if it matters and it's something that you have some control over, focus there to start. So, this is your permission slip to put yourself and your health first, to say no, to ask for help, to carve out time for the things that really matter to you that help you feel good. For a lot of people, if you're a 9-month employee, this is your first day back. So, welcome back for fall semester. But it's also a really busy time too. And so, I'm right there with you. If that's your scenario today of kind of revamping for fall, I'm kind of in that mode as well. So this is a good reminder to me. So when we think about wellness, we can think about different dimensions of wellness. And today we're mostly talking about physical wellness. But I want to encourage you that once you get a good handle and management around your physical wellness, that you think about your emotional, your intellectual, your spiritual, your environmental, financial, occupational, and social wellness, because all of those things are going to interplay and interconnect with one another. And so, if you're doing really well in one domain or dimension of wellness, but not so great in other areas, those are going to have some spillover effects. And so, I always tell people when you make changes to start where there's pain points. So if you're having difficulty with your physical health, that's going to be one of the places that you want to start because I believe personally that when you're physically not well, when you're having health issues, when you're having pain, that really makes it challenging for you to do any of the other things in your life well. And so I always tell folks to start with their physical health first. So I talk to people all the time about wellness basics, and there could be an entirely different list of wellness basics that you would want to start with. But for me, in my personal experience as a health coach, as a human, as a healthcare provider, having these five things be the foundation of wellness, I think is really helpful for most people. So that's why you have the GPS start here icon, because I think you have to really get a handle on your sleep, your hydration, your nutrition, your movement. So, having purposeful movement every day. So, we might say that's exercise, but exercise could be simply having a dance party in your kitchen if you're not doing a lot of movement once you get home. And then meditation. Meditation also goes hand in hand with mindfulness. And so that can be a lot of different things that you try to do to really give your brain a break every day. Multiple times a day, we need to give our brains breaks. So, the kind of overview of this is you want to sleep well. Obviously, we talk about sleeping well in terms of hours, but it's really about quality of sleep, not just quantity. So we'll talk more about that. Staying hydrated, so making sure that you're drinking about half of your body weight in ounces a day, striving for a healthy plate, eating the rainbow, about half of your plate should be vegetables, moving your body and doing some meditation, maybe 3 to 5 minutes per day to start, are going to be the places that you really can get some good progress going. And so, again, these are going to be your physical dimensions or domains of wellness. So now we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive. So I always tell people usually to start with sleep or with water because I think sleep is really the foundation for health. It's the thing, though, that's the hardest for us to control. And so sleep is still number one, but I wouldn't necessarily start with sleep because we can set our, rooms up for the best sleep possible. We can optimize everything, but ultimately, it's really difficult for us to control how many hours of sleep we get and what the quality of that sleep is. And so here are the things you want to think about. Yes, quantity is important. 7 to 8 hours is really the standard for nightly sleep, but quality is also going to play a factor. For me personally, this is going to vary for everyone on the call, but I would do better having 6 or 7 hours of really good quality, uninterrupted sleep than to have 7 or 8 or even 9 hours of not good quality sleep, of being interrupted or of just waking up. Those are going to be things that are personal to you, but I just know that if I'm going to have a night where I might get interrupted sleep, maybe I have a sick child, which sometimes happens. That happened last night. Then I know that I would do better to get a little bit of a break and say get 5 or 6 hours of good quality sleep that's uninterrupted, than to try to get 2 or 3 hours here and kind of piecemeal that together. Everyone is not that way. So you have to really think about and reflect on what is best for you. And sometimes that's just trial and error. That's, doing everything that you can to control your sleep and then taking good notes on, okay, which worked better for you. And doing that over a series of days or weeks because there are a lot of factors at play. So it may not just be the amount of sleep that you got, whether it was interrupted or not. It may be how much stress you had that day. I always tell people to start trying to power down around 9 o'clock at night because we really want to be in bed and asleep as close to 10 p.m. as we can because of our natural rhythms called our circadian rhythm. We really want to get good quality sleep between 10 p.m. and midnight because that's when our bodies naturally start to repair themselves. But if we're on our phones at night or we're taking care of a sick child or maybe a sick partner or spouse or maybe even a new puppy, whatever your scenario is, or we're just watching TV, we're binging Netflix. If we're doing that between 10 and 12, then we're not getting our good quality sleep. And even if, which we probably can't, even if we could sleep in 2 extra hours the next day, maybe it's a Friday night and you sleep in 2 hours on Saturday, it really starts to add to our sleep deficit. So if you get into a sleep deficit where you're not getting the restorative sleep hours, meaning that you're not sleeping between about 10 o'clock to about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, then you're having this sleep deficit of quality of sleep and possibly quantity of sleep. And then it's hard to catch up because we typically say, well, we're going to sleep in to catch up, or we're going to sleep in on the weekends, even if we're not in a deficit. And sleeping in is not really how our bodies are designed. Culturally, that's what we tend to do in the US for some reason. But if you're in a sleep deficit or you're not feeling well or you just aren't getting a quality sleep, it's better to go to bed earlier. So at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock ahead of your 10 p.m. bedtime than it is to sleep in a couple of extra hours the next day. And that's kind of counterintuitive to a lot of people. I'm a night owl, so I really like to be up at night. And so that's hard for me as well. So I'm not saying this is easy. It's pretty simple, but it's not always easy to do. So start an evening routine. Again, we have an Echo Dot at home. So Alexis tells us at 9 o'clock, power down hour, and she gives us two reminders. And my kids know that it's time to go to bed if they're not already in bed. The thing I like about that is that we always talk about delegation, and most of the time we feel like we don't have anyone to delegate to, right? There might not be room in the budget to hire people. We might not have all of the amenities and services of people who can afford those things. And so, who do you delegate to? Well, the Echo Dot is a really easy person, and I say person in air quotes, to delegate to. So, instead of being the person that tells the kids that they have to go to bed, and my kids inevitably would get really upset about that, I decided that we would make Alexa be the one that said they had to go to bed. And that works so well because then it takes it off of mom and dad, and it's the Echo Dot saying it's bedtime versus mom and dad having to remind you again and again. And then that's actually become pretty fun. I still have two kids that come at 9 o'clock just to hear. They're putting themselves to bed and they don't need the reminder, but they come just because it's kind of a part of their routine. And so they like having that. They have a little dance party at 9 o'clock and they go to bed. So sometimes outsourcing and delegation can look like doing that through an app or through some kind of program, not always a human that you have to pay for. So we always say no blue light after 9 p.m. or if you do, to use blue light blocking glasses. You can get those on Amazon. The blue light is looking at the frequency waves that are in our electronics that give that blue glow that you get. And so you can set an app on your phone and in your settings to make your blue light dim at a certain time. So I have mine dim at 9 o'clock and I have it not undim itself until 7 in the morning. And that works really well. But if you're using, a laptop, an iPad, a TV, any of those things, even lights on your electronics or in your, lamps and things like that, those can also have blue light lights. And so you might want to do something like have some glasses that you wear in the evening. One thing I also do is after supper time around 6 or 7 o'clock, all of the overhead lights in the Horton house go off and it's just lamps only. And that helps get people kind of in the frame of mind of it's time to kind of calm down and start to get ready for bed and kind of unwind. You want to also keep your room cool, dark, and quiet. So if you have, a pet or a person or, something that's going to interrupt you, you want to make sure that it's not interrupting the cool, dark, and quiet part. One thing that we're going to invest in the next time we need to replace our mattress is a motion isolation mattress, which is really helpful that if you do share your bed with a dog or a person, that, you don't get as much movement in the bed itself. That's something that is fairly new technology. It's kind of the one that you see on the commercials where they drop the bowling ball and then the wine glass doesn't tip over. But now they're calling it motion isolation, and they've done a lot in terms of technology to make that work well. I'm really excited to get this because I do get really sensitive to motion and to things moving and to light. And so I'm the person that needs sometimes a weighted blanket, which is a good thing also to purchase if you want to think about purchasing some things to help with your sleep hygiene, is what we call it now. You also can get the eye mask to wear at night, which I think are really helpful. They even have weighted eye mask. That is not something that I would want to do personally. I've had some surgeries on my sinuses and on my nose, and so that would not be comfortable to me. But some people actually really enjoy having a weighted eye mask. But making sure that it's covering the bridge of your nose and around your orbital socket, your eyes, so that you're not getting any light. Otherwise, you're probably not getting the benefit of wearing the eye mask. And some people just don't prefer that. So using curtains and window shades that really darken the room, making sure that you are able to cover over or kind of diminish any blue light from electronics, like I mentioned, turning out lamps and night lights. There have been some studies that show that using night lights actually will alter the vision of children, and so it could cause some nearsightedness in children if you use night lights, which I know are for safety. But there are some that you can get now. I always will give Amazon as an example, but any big box store, there are some that you can get motion censored so that if you're worried about maybe a pet or a child or maybe even someone who's older in the home of having a fall risk, you can get the motion detected sensors they plug into your outlet, and then the night light will come on when they sense that there's some motion going by. And that might be a safer way to have some light in case you have some people getting up in the middle of the night or in case you're worried about you making it through. So, those are some extra things for sleep. This could be its own class, because there's just so much research out there about sleep. And to me, I always tell people a lot of people go undiagnosed with sleep apnea, which really impacts your quality of sleep because those apneic spells are really depriving your body and your blood and your brain of oxygen. And so if you're going to sleep and you feel better at 9 or 10 or 11 o'clock at night than you do when you wake up the next day, there's probably something going on physically or maybe possibly even sleep apnea that's impacting your quality of sleep if that's a continual pattern. So if that's you, I would recommend reaching out to your primary care doctor and exploring if seeing a sleep specialist, usually in the form of a neurologist, is helpful. That makes a huge, huge difference in terms of your inflammation. Even it'll impact your ability to lose weight. It'll impact eventually your hormones and immune system. So, not just about your sleep, but also just the quality of your health as well. So, hopefully that helps, and I can answer more questions if you'll have them. I know we always talk about melatonin usually when we talk about sleep, so we can go into that in the Q&A. Hydration, I think, is really simple and straightforward. We just usually don't like to drink water. I am not always the best at drinking water. It's never been something that I really enjoy. Some people love the taste of water. For me, I have to make it a little bit more fun to enjoy it, but it is what I primarily drink now. Once I went through my health and life coaching certification program, that year-long program really opened my eyes to some of the habits I had in terms of food and nutrition. And so water is what you'll see me have most. I have my water with me usually at all times. And it's important to keep something with you so that you can always refill it. So set a hydration goal for yourself. You may want to set a reminder until you get into the habit of drinking water regularly. For me, I think most people like to do addition. The math on addition is always usually more fun than subtraction. And I think we keep that with us the rest of our lives. And so if you're drinking a lot of Cokes and coffees and teas and fun drinks, refreshers and Hydrolive and, all of the good things that you can drink, the different, Herbalife teas and things like that. If those are the things that you enjoy drinking, it's going to be harder for you to take those off of your kind of daily schedule. So instead of trying to cut those back and subtract those from your day, try to add in another glass of water. And the more that you add in the good stuff, the waters and things like that, or any of these habits, the more it's going to crowd out the things that you want to lessen. So the more water you drink, the less room you're going to have to drink coffee, the less room you're going to have to drink teas or these other specialty drinks. And so I always say add in the good stuff, and eventually it's going to crowd out the rest of the stuff. And that's a quote that's attributed loosely to Socrates. I'm sure many other people have said it, but I borrowed it because I think it's amazing. Track your progress, use an app, use paper, use your notes app on the phone or like a dedicated hydration app. Whatever is free and simple and easy, that's what you should use. The more complicated we make it, the more expensive we make something, the less likely we are to actually carry through with it. And then I always say habit stack. So every time you sit down at your desk, make sure your water bottle is filled. Every time you get up to check your mailbox at work, or maybe you're at home and you're watching TV, if there's actually still a commercial break on your TV program, take a sip or refill your water. One that I like to do is every time I drink a coffee or a tea, I make sure that I also have a water with me. Carry that water bottle everywhere you go so that you don't have a reason to not drink it. And then, like I said, make it fun. So I love having mint and cucumber and strawberry in my water. It's just a personal favorite for me, but you could use any of those other fruits and herbs and things to make it, a fun thing to do and to make the water taste a little bit more refreshing. I always get the question about carbonated versus uncarbonated water that is, you know, just in its purest form is always going to be the best. Carbonated water, some people can tolerate that really well. Some people can't. Sometimes it gives people what we call GI upset. It gives them a stomach ache. Also, some carbonated water, like LaCroix and things like that, have additives and chemicals and preservatives in them and artificial flavorings. So all carbonated drinks are not created equal. So you want to really think about getting one that doesn't have a lot of extra things added if you are drinking carbonated water. So something like Perrier with no flavorings, that would be perfectly fine if you enjoy it. And if, there's nothing extra there, that's not something that is going to be bothersome to you personally. But you can't drink all of your water as carbonated water because that's not healthy and it's not as available in the body as just your plain water. Um, there's a lot of information also about alkaline waters and different things, smart waters. We're not going to go that deep because if you're drinking Cokes, any water's better than the Cokes and things that you're drinking. So start small and kind of make progress and then do your own research. I always encourage you to do your own research because when you think about, um, making a change, what's good for one person is not always good for someone else. And so you want to really think about, is this a good choice for me? Have I done the research to know, exactly what steps I want to take next? So half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 200 pounds, that would be about 100 ounces of water a day. We usually say no more than 128 ounces or about a gallon of water. And we also say that the minimum, you used to hear 8 ounce glasses of water a day is what you should be drinking. That's 64 ounces. That's actually the minimum amount of water you should be drinking. So 64 ounces would be the minimum for most adults, and 128 is usually about the max for most adults. And there are special circumstances, but you don't want to overhydrate because you can definitely dilute your urine. You can dilute your minerals and electrolytes, and that can be dangerous. So too much of a good thing can be a concern as well. Um, Electrolytes and minerals, adding those in the forms of things like, uh, a Hydrolife packet, an LMNT packet. It's called Element, but it's LMNT is my favorite to use. But it does have sodium and magnesium and potassium, and so you would want to make sure that you're not going over your daily recommendations, or if you have heart issues and things like that, that you're not, kind of in a situation where you shouldn't be doing that. So always get approval. My husband was really deficient in magnesium and he was tired of taking the big magnesium pills. And so he cleared it with our primary doctor for him to use the element packets instead. And so he goes and gets his blood regularly monitored for those things. And so far, that has been something that worked well for him. I enjoy using the element packets, but I don't tolerate them quite as well as he does. just because there's just a lot of sodium in there. And so I have to do a half a packet. And so I do love them. I think that they're a really great resource, but you just have to do what works best for you. And sometimes that's making a modification. So I hope that's helpful for hydration. There may be other things we want to cover in the Q&A. Nourishment, I think this is really hard because there's so many diet plans out there, and so much of our nutrition is focused on losing weight. For me personally, I went through a weight loss journey the last 2 or 3 years, and I've lost about 85 pounds, and I've kept that weight off for over a year, and I still have some weight left to go. But for me, a lot of times I would really not reach out to people about, good nutrition habits or for help. I had friends that were registered dietitians and nutritionists, and I had all of these resources available, but I felt completely overwhelmed when I was overweight and I didn't know what to choose as a diet plan. And so I just happened across someone named Brittany Williams on Instagram, and she had this JERF approach, JERF, just eat real food. And it made so much sense because there's a billion dollar with a B, billion dollar industry in getting you to want to eat a certain meal plan or to do a certain exercise. Health and fitness is a business. It's a big business in the US, particularly. And so there is a lot of research that will tell you you should eat this. And there's a lot of real good research that tells you you should eat that. And it's keto or it's paleo or it's gluten free. And so I let that be an excuse for many, many years of not taking action because I would take action on what I thought was a good plan, Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig. If it has been out there, I have tried it. I have been on a diet with my family and my pediatrician and my doctors, ever since I was 12, 13 years old. And so I've done everything from Slim Fast shakes at 11 and 12 years old to 13 and 14 being taken to Weight Watchers. So if it has been out there, beach, body, South Beach diet, the 3-day military diet, I have done all of those things. And what really worked for me was working on my sleep and working on my stress and working on my hydration first for my weight loss, and then having the kind of ability and energy to even be able to talk about food. Like, what do we do with food? And looking at calories and looking at, your caloric intake from the food. That was just all too much because we've all been taught to look at the calories only and not look at the micro and macros of the actual food. How much does it have in magnesium or potassium or trans fats? It's just all a lot. How much protein is it? How much carb is it? How much fat is it? Is it healthy fat? There's just so much you almost feel like you have to be an RDN to understand. So my approach from watching Brittany Williams on Instagram was just eat real food. Is it in the perimeter of the grocery store? Is it something that is grown in a garden or is it made in a manufacturing plant? So is it a plant, a real plant, or is it made in a plant? That's a fun one, I think, especially for kids. And it's a good reminder for adults too. So eat a balanced meal. There are lots of free resources online, governmental resources too, that will help you, calculate based on your age and the gender that you select and how tall you are and how old you are of the kinds of macros, meaning like protein, fat, carbs you should be eating a day. And that will help you calculate it. I use it to calculate mine because I don't have the knowledge to do that. RDNs do, but I don't have the knowledge to do that. And it's so easy to do it on a website or an app. So a balanced meal is having a healthy fat, a carb, complex carb that's not going to just break down into sugar, and then a protein at each meal and snack because that's going to help balance out your blood sugar. A lot of people who are going through stress and who are feeling anxious or even having some things like mild depression could actually be having issues with their blood sugar because our blood sugar will go up and down based on us eating or drinking a lot of sugar. And we can have anxiety due to that because our body is trying to give us a red flag to say, hey, my blood sugar is just all over the place. It's on a roller coaster and I need you to pay attention. But we kind of code it sometimes as other things, stress, anxiety, depression, life happening to us instead of realizing that we're eating and drinking things that are making our blood sugar levels completely spike and causing us to have really what's a physical issue, a physiological reason for those things. So eat the rainbow. A lot of times we eat beige and brown food, and then to feel like we're being healthy, we'll add in some green things. But we really want to have the rainbow, the reds, the oranges, the yellows, the greens, the purples, the blue. It's like the Roy G. Biv. We want to have the entire rainbow of foods because if we're not eating those different colors, every day or at least every week. An RDN would tell you to kind of really track this by day. But I think to start, and even for me who's been doing this for 3 years, it's easier for me to look at over the week, did I get these vegetables? Did I get these good things for my body in? Because every day I feel like you would be eating all day if you were trying to get in all of the colors. But it is the ideal. So track that. Keep your protein, your complex carb, and your healthy fat at every meal. Keep that at the forefront because that's going to help balance the blood sugar the best. Track your meals and your snacks. You can use a food journal or an app. I always like to just take my cell phone and take a picture of what I eat because if you tell me that you're going to eat a hamburger, if you go to a fast food restaurant and get a hamburger, versus you go to a sit down restaurant and get a hamburger with fries, that's going to look very different nutritionally, calorically, and how healthy those ingredients are, right? So if you're going to, like a fast food restaurant and hit the drive-through for a burger and fries, versus you going to sit down at a really elevated, like Chez Fun Fun in Birmingham and get a hamburger that's made, with the cleanest of ingredients and, not a lot of processed flour. And the beef is really high quality, grass fed and finished beef. That's going to be totally different. And so taking a picture of that food can be a really insightful thing, not only for you, but if you work with a health and life coach or a registered dietitian nutritionist, or you go to your family doctor or nurse practitioner, they're going to get to kind of see, okay, these are the choices you're making, these are the portion sizes, and this is the quality of food because a picture really is worth 1,000 words. And then avoid inflammatory or processed foods. So it's so important that you look at your nutrition labels and that you're avoiding trans fats because those aren't really fats, they're actually chemicals and preservatives in the foods. So you want those to be zero and you want to make sure that you have good healthy fat. So looking at saturated versus unsaturated, I go into how to actually read a food label, and I talk more about this in terms of inflammatory and processed foods in our cardiovascular health class, and that's archived on the wellness.ua.edu site. So I go into much more detail about inflammation and food and how that works with the body, and then how to read those food labels if you want more information. It's a YouTube video, so you can skip ahead. But that would be some more great kind of things to dive into if that's something that you're interested in. So make it simple. Again, if you're not eating breakfast, if you're skipping lunch or if you're eating fast food every day for lunch, and then you're eating a big meal at dinner, I would suggest making breakfast your biggest meal of the day and then get progressively lighter with your food. We're really designed to eat when it's light outside. So your biggest meal should really be breakfast, typically for most people, a medium-sized lunch, and then a smaller dinner before it gets dark. So, like Oprah Winfrey made that really famous of don't eat after 6 or 7. And that's true because that's going to naturally help you do intermittent fasting, which is another big buzzword in nutrition today is should we do intermittent fasting? For me, it has been a game changer and it works really well in some seasons of my life. In others, it's something that it is not as helpful. And so I got to the point where I was eating one meal a day and I was able, because it was one meal, it was over a couple of hours. So it's not just you have one plate of food, but that you have a really tight window of like 2 hours of when you eat. And, a year prior to trying that, I would have said that's completely unhealthy. You should never do that. And I think there are still people who should not try that. That's not healthy for them. But I was having a lot of inflammation and a lot of challenges in losing weight, and I'd hit a plateau and had a lot of other health issues at the time. And so I cleared it with my doctor to try it, and I progressively worked up to it. So I didn't just start with that. I had been doing fasting at 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, and worked my way up. And that really, really helped me a lot. I've been in a season of recovering from a surgery, and so intermittent fasting is not helpful for me right now. So I'm eating traditional 3 meals and sometimes a snack. I'll go back to intermittent fasting when I can. For keto, a lot of times that's going to be helpful for certain people. That'll help people with diabetes. My husband was able to do a medical keto program through the university here. It was a really helpful thing for him. We have Livongo, we have a couple of other programs that help people with diabetes, and my husband was able to lose 40 pounds and half his insulin, which was life changing. He went from needing 6 insulin pens a day to one. But it was a medical keto program and it was healthy. It was not eating a lot of the processed foods that sometimes keto people an industry will actually sell where it's the packaged keto foods. That's not as healthy for anyone. So just take it all within context. And then once you learn more, once you start to see some success, either in your weight loss or just how well you feel, maybe in your blood work, even you'll see the numbers improve, then you can do more nuanced things like choosing a more tailored nutrition plan. But always start small and make it easy for you. So, movement. This is one that I'm really passionate about because it's the thing that most people dread, I would say, but it's one thing that I think that we have more control over than some of the other things like giving up our favorite snacks and food because, I'm a firm believer. I was raised in Tuscaloosa, so I have that cultural context of being raised in the South. And in my family, food was not just fuel. It was not just something you did for energy, but it was cultural. It was celebratory, and it was something that it's still a part of our family life of having this particular recipe from this family member. And so to me, food is fun. It's not just fuel. And so I don't want to give up my favorite things. I don't want to give up the things that my grandmother made for me when I was a kid. We can make them healthier and we can do it in moderation, but we don't have to give it all up. So I think most things in moderation is my approach to wellness. I think that makes it more sustainable. And, at the end of the day, it's all about health and wellness. It's not about scales and numbers and sizes. It's really how you feel. And I think working toward how you feel versus how you look is really something that we all could work on because our culture doesn't really honor that sometimes. So movement is not about going and doing Orange Theory. I've done all the exercise programs too. I've worked with a physical trainer. I've done boot camps. I've done Orange Theory. I was so grateful that I could see the hospital from the window because I wasn't quite so sure that I didn't need to go to the hospital after after doing their treadmill work. That was really, really hard. And I did it, probably 15 months after I started my health and wellness journey. So had worked with a physical and personal trainer, and I thought that I was ready for that, and I was not. It was really hard. So kudos to people who can do that. It's not about CrossFit or these really difficult workouts. And running, I think, is really stressful and kind of hard on the body. There's research that shows that that's not always the best option, but we think about running as being kind of the ultimate exercise. For me, I think, walking, purposeful movement, lifting weights. Lifting weights is really helpful because it helps with your bone density and it helps with your functional movement. So I'm a big, big fan of strength training, meaning that you're lifting weights, not that you're doing machines at the gym, which sometimes those are really appropriate too, but it's free weights and lifting those. Learning how to use those, so going and working out with a personal trainer is really helpful so that you get your form down, that you do a squat for them and they show you how you need to improve that squat so that you're doing the squat that's going to protect your body. For me, I had to learn how to do a squat appropriately with the right form and function. I had to learn how to lift weights. I had to learn how to progress through weightlifting. I did that 4 years ago, and now that I'm back on, and able to be cleared to do exercises again, I'm still able to draw on that knowledge. And so I think that's really helpful to increase your confidence if you're someone who's not worked out before. If you're, kind of in the couch to 5K, mentality of things, if you're not doing a lot in your daily movement, then dancing while your coffee is being made in the morning is purposeful movement and helpful. If you're not doing a lot of exercise in general, walking your dog after supper. That's really helpful. Walking after big meals is going to help decrease your blood sugar spikes and will help balance out your blood sugar within the 60 minutes after you had a meal time. So maybe having a family walk after dinner tonight, that could be something that you add to your list that you want to try. Yoga, Pilates, walking, dancing, stretching, all of those are important. Stretching is going to be so helpful when you start walking, when you start exercising. stretching will be very protective of your body. So, looking at programs that have stretching involved in them is really important. Aiming for 30 minutes of exercise most days. 3 to 4 is a good place to start. 4 to 5, you're doing really well. 5 to 6, I think, is helpful. I would say the ultimate would be 6 days a week, 30 to 45 minutes of moderate intensity so that you are a little out of breath, but you can still hold a conversation. And then having either Saturday or Sunday be, or whatever day you choose, to be an active rest day, meaning, you might go for an extra walk with your dog or your kids or your spouse or partner, or, you might meet a friend and do a walk and talk down at the river walk. Or you might, go outside and play basketball, something like that where you're being active, but you're not really exercising, you're just playing. That's really helpful. Playing is also really good for adults, and we don't do that nearly enough. And my hand is raised. And then set realistic goals for yourself so that you can build on your success. Meditation so important because our brain needs breaks, and if you're like me, you don't give your brain a break. We hit the snooze button in the morning, and then we're go, go, go until we go to bed at night, and that's not really how our bodies are designed. This is the one that I have to remind myself of the most at this point in my journey, is let your brain have breaks. Set a timer, 3 to 5 minutes in the morning to start, maybe 3 to 5 minutes after lunch, then 3 to 5 minutes at nighttime. I think that's really, really helpful. You can even break your day up into quarters. We have quarters in football, we have quarters in the year. You can have morning, kind of midday, afternoon, and evening. And I heard it say in one of my personal development books I was reading last week, we don't have to wait for tomorrow to redo. We can think of our day like a quarter. And we can say, okay, this quarter, the morning was not that great, but midday is going to be good. I'm going to start over at midday versus wasting, quote unquote, a whole day when we feel like we've gotten off track or we've had a bad day. I also love the reminder of, was it a bad day or was it a bad 5 minutes? And that's also really helpful. That was helpful for me yesterday. I had a not so great 15 minutes yesterday, but I had to remind myself that those 15 minutes didn't negate the rest of the great day that I had. So using an app is really helpful for most people. It is for me. I love Headspace and Calm and Buddhify and Fit On. The thing I love about Fit On is that it's free and you actually can do physical exercises. They have articles on nutrition and you can do meditation built in. So if you only download one, I would recommend Fit On. And I have to give a shout out to Miranda because she's the one who told me about it this summer. And I don't know how I missed it, but this an amazing app. I use it all the time. I love it. It tracks your workouts. It counts meditation breaks as a workout. Using positive affirmations, being present in the moment. I always say be present where your feet are. Be mindful of distractions. We have so many things to be distracted by, just in our own brains, much less all of the fun things we could be distracted by. And then I always say to try to laugh every day. Laugh, smile, hug, dance. Research shows that if you hug 12 times a day, that helps with your neurotransmitters and your cortisol and your stress response. My son Charlie is the happiest person I know, and he gives the most hugs of anyone I know. So I think that research is validated at the Horton house. But laugh, smile, dance, hug, play, those are things that we don't always do, and they're not just for kids. Um, and even if they are just for kids, I personally believe, and research shows, that we all have our inner child. We're still the same, 5, 6, 7-year-old kid that we were. We're just in grown up bodies with grown up responsibilities. So let your inner child have some fun. This is a breakdown of some of the other apps that people often use. These are kind of like the top 5 to 10 that people will often say to try, and it gives them a breakdown of the cost. A lot of these have in-app purchases, so most of them you can use for free, but they're limited. So you could use Headspace and Calm and Buddhify and probably be able to do a new meditation every week. But there are also some costs involved, so you can look at those. Even Spotify has some meditations and some relaxing music that you can listen to, so you might want to look at your music providers as well. And then mindset matters. This GLAD technique for mindfulness, I actually learned this several years ago from one of my students. In her journal, she was talking about a technique that she used to manage her stress. and it was a glad technique. She had gone with her parent to a conference and learned about it. And so I tell you that, I found this through a student because always be open to learning something, even if you feel like you're the expert, even if you feel like you know a lot about something, there's always something new to know. And so I was just really glad that I learned this from her just by reading her journal in class. But it's having gratitude, something you've learned today, something you've accomplished, and something that you've delighted in. So at the end of the day, you just jot it down. And if you don't have time to jot it down, which is the most effective, think about it. Just think about it as you go to sleep. So, what were you grateful for today? I saw a good friend today. That was something I'm grateful for. Um, Something I learned today. I learned about some new policies and procedures at our faculty meeting this morning. Something that I accomplished. I will say that I worked on my course development and I had my Wellbama class today. And then something that I delighted in today. I got to say goodbye to my youngest before I left for work. So that was a delight that we got to share a few extra minutes together, just me and Mary Claire this morning. And so that is literally what you do. Writing it down helps solidify it in our brains, it's called our reticular activating system. But even if you don't write it down, at least going through that will help you kind of retrain your brain to look for the positive in life. So make everything that you want to do easy. So if you want to exercise in the morning, put out your exercise clothes. I even know some people who actually wear their exercise clothes to bed. I am not that committed to making it easy. I will change out of my pajamas in the morning, but putting your clothes where you can see them, putting your shoes, by your outfit so that you're not having to think about it. If you want to drink more water, have your water bottle with you. If you want to read more at night, James Clear, a famous author of Atomic Habits, says then put your, book on your pillow at night so that you have to move it to get into bed. So maybe you'll read a chapter before you go to sleep. If you want to send more thank you notes, I love to send thank you notes. If I don't send a thank you note for something, I feel like it haunts me. So I have them at home, I have them at work. I even keep them in my car so that I'm never without a thank you note. You never know who you need to thank. Um, those are just some examples of how to make something easy because if it's not easy, we sometimes won't do it. In counseling, we use this technique called win. Like, how do I win in this moment? And we're all winners at the University of Alabama. We like to win. So it's what's important now. And right now, what's important is you may need to get on to your next thing. We're wrapping up. It may be that you need to go and eat lunch. Maybe you didn't have time to eat lunch today. Don't skip. Just go get your lunch, right? It may be that you need to close out of your email and write a to-do list so that you're not distracted by that, constant Outlook notification in the background. It may be that you need to go and take a walk around your building just to get out of your office for a minute. There are lots of things that could be a winning moment for you, but just focus on what you need to do next. It's kind of the next right thing, and that will help recenter you when you're feeling like you're stuck. Those are going to be the kinds of things that help you free up brain space to really tackle the wellness basics we've talked about. There's also a Summers success equation, a life coach that I worked with several years ago. She said consistency plus time plus intensity times your belief equals your results. And I really believe that. So showing up every day inconsistently, not doing the things is going to really weigh on you and weigh on your mindset. But we try to be perfect. And if we can't be perfect, sometimes we quit. But Summer always told me if you just show up, imperfectly but consistently, you're going to move further than showing up perfectly on occasion. And so, consistency over time, plus the intensity, the effort that you put in, plus your kind of belief in yourself, your belief in your mindset, it's going to get you results in your health and wellness journey. I also like to share the positive reframing of circumstances drive our thoughts, and our thoughts drive our feelings, and those feelings drive our actions, and those actions drive our results. And so, if we have a circumstance like I'm trying to work and parent, this was in the middle of the pandemic. Thankfully, we're post pandemic now, but if we're trying to work and parent or whatever it is, it may be a caregiver. I'm trying to work full time and be a caregiver to my aging parents. My thought is my life is so hard. My feelings then, when I say my life is so hard, if y'all say that to yourselves. My life is so hard. Doesn't it feel heavy? It feels hard, right? So then we feel overwhelmed by that. We feel that somewhere in our bodies. And then our action is that we don't do anything. We feel stuck. We feel stressed out. And so the result is that we are stuck and stressed out. Life is stressful, right? Because we're in that stress response of freezing. We're not taking action. And that's very hard to get out of that reaction mode. So if we can retrain our thoughts to something more helpful, maybe you're going to say, I've been through this before, I've survived before. Maybe you say I'm strong or you say I'm capable and I can change things if I want. By doing that, that really starts to reset our mindset. So the circumstances don't change usually. Unfortunately, that's not within our control, or I would be signed up to change mine right now. But what you can do is you can say, I'm strong, I'm capable, I can do this, I can change things if I want to, I just need to get started. And when you say that in a really powerful voice, think about when we're cheering on Alabama football, if you're a football fan. Notice how positive and happy, like they're smiling, they're saying it in a really loud, authoritative voice. Roll Tide. Like y'all know how we do that on campus. Do the same thing to yourself. Hype yourself up in that same way. We all need it, right? We all need a cheering squad, and we have to be our best cheerleader. And so then you start to feel hopeful. And then when you're hopeful and you're a little bit more optimistic, you start to take more positive action. You really get to work. And then when you take that action, things start to change. And I think that that is really helpful. It's recommended that you write this down to activate that RAS system. But even if you don't write it down, think about it the next time you have a not so negative, not so helpful thought or something that's really weighing on you. See if you can do a positive or even a neutral reframe. So if it can't be positive, you can say, you know what, I'm going to be okay. That might be a more neutral way to say it. So some other practical tips about how to really get started on your journey. Building a community of support is what I really want to highlight here. And that's something that you can do in our MoveSpring app. So I'm going to leave this here for you because y'all can come back to this as kind of a checklist of things to try. But I love this too. So if you want to do that, something that you're wanting to change for 3 years, don't spend 3 minutes on it because you've got to make it sustainable. And Katie Moore Wellness says that on Instagram. I want to give her credit for that. And also, try not to moralize something as being good or bad. It's just food. It's just sleep. It's just what it is, right? It's just data. The scale's not good or bad. Chocolate cake is not good or bad, although I'd say it's very good. I love chocolate cake. But make your progress small, make it manageable, be consistent, have that community of support. Okay. And then practice self-compassion. We talk about this a lot with my friend Allison Currington in our work-life balance class. So you can get more information on that. But giving yourself compassion for being human is really important. Allowing yourself to admit that you're human is really important. That is very hard for me because um, I like to be perfect and I'm not. I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. And so giving yourself self-compassion is really, really helpful. There's also some good resources here in a video that you can think about self-compassion, right? So I hope that helps you embrace your humanness a little bit. It's helped me a good bit. I still have more work to do on that. Done is better than perfect. I have to say this as my mantra. My mantra this semester is going to be I don't do overwhelm and I don't do stress. That's my mantra. Some habit tracking that you can do. There's tons of resources online. This is a free one that's available at Paper Trail Design, but you can do a quick Google search. We would love, love, love for you to sign up for Strive for Five. This was actually the first wellness program that I ever did when I started my health and wellness journey. So it is a favorite. It has a special place in my heart. And so we'd love for you to set 2 goals and do this for 5 weeks. And you can create a team or you can join a team. And Miranda gave you details about the kickoff event. So we would love to see you there. I will also be doing Wellbama health screenings again this year, but usually I only do them in the summer. I'm going to be doing them in the fall and possibly the spring. So I will see you at the health screenings. Come by and say hello. And you can scan this QR code to join, but you can also go through your wellness portal. Sign up today. There's more information on MoveSpring. It does much more than just track your participation in Strive for Five. And so we would love for you to join MoveSpring and participate in the communities there. You can set up teams and groups and your own challenges. And that information on how to do those things are on this wellness page here. Then there's some screenshots. I always like to see what I'm joining. So this is going to be what welcomes you when you do sign up for Strive for Five. And you can set your custom goals. There's lots of great information in there. There's tons and tons of resources in MoveSpring. So download MoveSpring and download your Fit On app. That's your happy homework for today. And just remember that finding balance looks different for everyone. These are stacked stones called cairns. They're art a lot of times out in the Pacific Northwest, but also a lot of hikers use them as trail guides to point you in the right direction. And what represents this for me is that they're all stones stacked in balance, but all the stones look differently and they're all balanced a little differently. So, what works for you today may not work for your neighbor or your best friend, but also may not work for you tomorrow. So, just constantly kind of recalibrate and do what works best for you in the moment and just take care of yourself. We would love for you to follow us on our social media channels. The Wellness and Work Life team do an amazing job of managing all of that. Miranda and I get to see you on here, but we also have Carolyn and some other folks behind the scenes that also do a ton of work. So we're grateful to have a great team to provide these services to our UA community. And we would love for you to reach out. So with that being said, I'm going to drag over. I know y'all are going to see the behind the scenes, but so that I can see your questions or comments, I'm going to drag this over and go to the chat. You're also welcome to put things in the Q&A if you have questions you would like to ask. Thank you for sharing. Donna, you said Michael Pollan's intentional eating rules: eat real food, not too much, and mostly plants. That's a really good one. Miranda, thank you for popping all of that in the chat for us. Any questions or feedback? I know we're getting close to our 1 o'clock time, so if you need to go, that is perfectly fine. Your attendance has been recorded, but I'm happy to stay on and answer any questions as well. Thank you, Lee. Or Leah. I'm not sure if it's Lee or Leah. Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you. We're always looking for feedback and different classes that you might want us to teach. So if you all have suggestions about that, we're always looking to add new content to our existing classes and also offer some new content in general. So please feel free to give us that feedback as well. We're always looking to improve and to add new resources that you guys want to see. I'm glad y'all enjoyed it. Well, I'll stay for just another minute or so, make sure that there's no one typing out a question. But otherwise, I hope you'll have a great start to your fall semester, and we'll give you a big roll tide. Thanks, y'all. Thank you, Robert.